So we're going to create a round logo, and it's going to have words that are going to follow along on a path. And what I want you to do is create a document, and I'm just going to use the common one that we've been using for the last couple weeks for different projects. So here's an example of what we're going to be working on. It's going to have text on a path and then text upside down on the bottom. And if you want to follow along with this so you understand what's going on as far as the technique is concerned and how we're creating these this text that has a curve to it, we're going to be doing all of these different things on this project. So here's my blank canvas. What I would like you to do is click on where the ellipse tool is, where the rectangle tool, and if you hold it down, you can find the ellipse. It's over here on the side. Rectangle tool, we're going to go down to the ellipse. And then what I would like you to do on the canvas is just click one time, and you're going to type 500 by 500. So this is going to create an ellipse or a circle path that is 500 by 500. It's going to look like this. Then I'd like you to click again, and I want you to change it to 400 by 400. And then the last one, you're going to do a whoops. Uh-oh. You're going to click one last time. You're going to do 300 by 300. So you have three circles. They're going to look like this or something similar to that. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our selection tool, and we're going to select all three of these circles. And we'd like to use the window tool up here at the window menu. Go to window. And then we're going to go down here to window and align. So you click window, align. That should open up a box someplace on your, mine actually attached itself over here underneath the color palette. Yep. I'm going to use the horizontal center. It's going to move them together like this. And then I also want to use, on the right-hand side, you'll see one that's called vertical align center. And it's going to stack them on top of each other like a target. So that is our goal. So I'm going to be over here. I'm going to use the eraser tool. I'm going to select the scissors. Then I'm going to come over to the center ring on my three rings there. I'm going to go to the middle one. And if I bring the scissors down to where the anchor point is, I'm going to click right on that anchor point. And you'll see that it changes two of the handlebars, two of those anchor points. I'm going to come over to the right-hand side, and I'm going to click on this other anchor point. And you'll notice that it does a different handlebar set over there. But what this will let us do now, if you can see this, I basically took scissors and cut this circle in half. This half of the circle and this half of the circle. So I have two different parts. I want to leave them right on top of each other, just moving it out of the way to show you that I did, in fact, cut both of those, which in essence divided that in half. So I have them separate. The next thing I want you to do is click on the T, the type tool, up on underneath the pen tool on the toolbar, right here. We're just going to click on the T, and when you bring that out to your canvas, if you are out over the open space, we haven't really used the text tool much in here, the type tool in here. We used it a lot in Photoshop, but we haven't used it in Illustrator much at all. So in here, if I hold it out over top of some open space, you can see that it has that selection box with the cursor icon in the center of it. And if I click there, it would add some text. I could enter that text. I don't want to do that. If I bring it down to my path, you'll notice that as soon as I hover over top of the path, it turns from a selection box to a cursor with a curvy line underneath it. And it says path as I click on it. So when I click there, you'll see that all this text shows up on the curve. It holds true to the curve. And if I type something in there without, so I don't have to worry about all the filler text that they use, I can say this text is on a curved path. I can select that text on that curve. And you can see that I only have this part of the curve selected. Because I snipped it, I used the scissors to cut. I have just the top half of this circle selected. In order to get our characters, or the ability to change the font, we're going to go to where the Properties tab is. Properties should be underneath your color palette over here on the right-hand side. When I zoom in there, whoa, that's way too close. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay, so as I scroll down through here, you'll see that I have the ability, I can change the fill, which is actually the color of that text, if I have it selected. Change the fill, which is the color of that text. You see that it changes right there. I can also change the stroke color, which means I could change that as well to something else if I wanted to. You'll notice that as I zoom in, a little too close, now this has a yellow stroke, it has green fill. You actually don't even see the green fill because it's not, the size of the text isn't big enough. If I have this text selected, I'm going to leave it to black and no stroke for right now. So I have the text selected. If you have the text selected like this, it says fill stroke, and then down below should say character. It gives you the ability to change the font family, the size, all that kind of stuff. What I want you to do is start clicking the up arrow to make the on the text size to make it bigger. And you'll notice that it is getting bigger along that path. The text size is the one, it has a 12 pt, 12 point. It's way over here on the side underneath character. So as you click the up arrow, it's going to make the text bigger and bigger. And then the other thing you can do, don't make it too big. The other thing you can do is you can change the font family. Mine says Myriad Pro, but when I click on that, a neat thing with Photoshop and Illustrator, any of the Adobe software, is as you hover over top of this, it updates live on your selected text. So I can hover over top of these and I can see what it's going to look like out on the canvas as soon as I get my mouse over top of the next one. So I can see exactly what all these look like. So with this text on the path, like I said before, you can change the color of the text. You can change the stroke color of the text, right like that. And then we also have the ability, as we're working with this, in addition to selecting the text and editing this text, if we click on one of our selection tools, you'll see that you end up with a line at the beginning. And when I zoom in on that line, you'll see that the arrow, there's a little bitty arrow that points to the right on the left side of it. What that allows us to do on here is we can adjust our starting point by dragging this back to the beginning. It won't go any farther than the beginning of where the path is, but what I can do here is I could go to the opposite end and I could actually bring that ending back and kind of limit the text where it can go inside this half of a ring, half of a circle. So I can move it that way. This gives me the ability to start at a certain location. I can end at a certain location. You can do your paragraph adjustments underneath that to make it left aligned or center aligned. As you center it, it's going to be on the center of, everything's going to happen from the center of that selected text. Left is going to move it so it aligns on the left. Right will align on the right. Justify is on the far right. Justify all lines. That'll space every word out so it fits along the necessary location. So usually a center, if you're doing something like this, the center is probably the best place to align from. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to add some on the bottom too. So I want you to click on the bottom, and you're going to type "This text is on the bottom." And you'll notice that my text, I clicked on the left to start writing this way. It doesn't do that. It still follows the same pattern in a clockwise rotation. And so if I bring my selection arrow and I bring this back, bring this line back over here, my text, this test is on the bottom. Change this. Text is on the bottom. Now it's in the right location. I have to drop the thing a percent. So I have a big donut right now. The text on the path on the top, and then text is on the bottom down here. So I have my text on the bottom. It's upside down. It's hard to read. When you are using your selection tool or your direct selection tool, and you click on that set of text, we looked at the right-hand side and the left-hand side when we had our starting and our ending points with the little arrows that point off. Right in the middle, we have one that's going to, it has a line, a blue line, and it points up. And when you click and drag that up, it's going to flip that text around. So now it's on the opposite side. When I let go, now it's on this side. So there's that line. If I drag it back down, it's going to flip it upside down. If I drag it back up, it's going to put it on top of that path. And so once it's on the inside there, that gives me a little bit smaller because I'm not on the outside of that path. I'm on the inside of the path. And because I'm on the inside of the path, I have a shorter distance for this text to travel. And so what I would have to do is click on the T. So I have my text selected. I would drag the size down until it fits in that area right there. So this text that's on a path on the top and the bottom, I can click on the T, the type tool again, and I'm going to select the bottom one. And you'll see that it doesn't really line up in the middle. It's kind of closer to the center of the circle than it is the bottom of the circle. I want it to be in the middle. And so over here, underneath where the character stuff is, where we're changing the size and the type and all that stuff, you'll find 3 little dots in the corner. It says More Options. When I click on that, you'll see a little window pop up, and it has the same set of options we had at the top, but it also has another set of 4 underneath that. The bottom left-hand one, right here, says Set the Baseline Shift, and it's set at 0 points right now. So when I click the down arrow, you're going to watch the text spread out, but it also starts working down through the center of that baseline, through the path. And now it's directly in the middle of that path as I'm looking at it. I could do the same thing to the top one. I could click on this, select the text on the top, choose these 3 little dots, and I can adjust the baseline shift there to bring it in a little bit closer so it's in the middle of there. And I have text. The X is right in the middle there. Helps me kind of align it because when I look at that, the X, that path should be going directly through the center of the word text. Now after we get this in the middle, we can select a path. We can change the fill. This one to be maybe black on the inside. I'm going to have my stroke white. Increase that stroke size. And I'm going to change this one. That'd be a nice blue. A little too there. Let's bring it back this way. There we go. And I'm also going to change the stroke on this side. And we're going to change it to a yellow. And I'm going to increase the stroke weight. And you can see that it's building on the inside of the path. When we have this, there is a tab underneath Window called Stroke. I have it open here. And when I zoom in there, you can see that we can align the stroke to different parts of the path. And so right now I am on the inside of the path. That's what it says right there. Stroke to the inside. I could do stroke to the outside. Bump it over this way a little bit so we can see what that looks like. If I click on stroke to the outside, it's going to bounce it out this way. If I do stroke in the middle, it's going to put the path is going to travel right down the center of that stroke. So this is a personal decision depending on what you're looking for as far as your graphic is concerned. I'm going to leave it in the middle just because I think it looks a little bit better on this project. So I think I did both of these. There's this one. I could do this one in the middle as well. It makes the center circle just a little bit more full, and it gets the weight of the path is centered between these two paths right here. The text is going to be centered on the path, and then it's going to be centered between the two lines. So now we could take the center circle. I could add a piece of art in the middle. I could create something totally new and fill in this center area. I could use a picture. I could do anything here on the inside, but this gives us a very good idea of how we can change the text and align it specifically to a path. So this is our project. We created 3 ellipses. We used the scissors tool to cut the middle ellipse, the middle circle, in half, added text with the type tool on the top, added text to the bottom. We also used the text here. We used some of the handlebars to move and manipulate our text so it can be shrunk down to only follow the part of the path that we want it to follow. And we also were able to flip this. So instead of being reading right to left upside down, we can read it left to right, and it's in the correct orientation. But this gives us a nice logo to work with. We can do whatever we want to here in the middle. We could add more circles, more text, a picture, some kind of a piece of artwork here in the middle, whatever we need to do for this project. If you have any questions, please let me know. I would be happy to answer them.